As we talked about earlier, the Chicago Bulls have officially applied for the disabled player exception on Lonzo Ball, hopefully granting the team $10.1 million dollars in an exception that they can use to either sign a free agent or trade for a player that is in the last year's deal. We're going to talk about some of the candidates in both free agency and that could be traded for on tonight's video. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform that we're on. But let's get into the business that we're here to talk about tonight, and that is the disabled player exception. And I want to clear up some things. There were some questions asking, A, does that mean Lonzo Ball still on the team? Yes, this is not the career-ending injury exception. This does not even eliminate Lonzo Ball's contract from the Bulls' salary or a roster spot. It doesn't free up a roster spot either. Keep in mind, Lonzo Ball still counts towards the 15-player rotation for the Chicago Bulls, even though he's not going to be able to play. What this does do is it allows the Bulls, if granted, which more than likely it will be, $10.1 million that they can use to either sign a free agent or trade for a player in the last year of their deal. Now, this cannot be combined with any other exception or cap space. This also cannot be split between any other players like the mid-level exception can be split between multiple players. So that's kind of that. Also, some questions we asked, how long can it take to be granted? Now, it can take a while, but the Golden State Warriors used it recently, as a user pointed out, when they used it for Klay Thompson. And they got it approved within 5 days. So we could be looking looking before the end of the week that we know that the Bulls are going to have this exception. Now, the bigger risk of that, of course, is are free agents still going to be on the board by then? Or are the Bulls going to have to then explore the trade market? Well, if the Bulls are pretty confident that they're going to get this exception, which all signs point to that they will, they can still, talk to free agents. And, now that it's publicly known that they have, a free agent could wait around to sign into that for the Chicago Bulls. So, that's kind of some of the questions around that I just wanted to clear up. No, Lonzo Ball does not go away. No, this isn't something that they would have to pay back. It is just an exception for half of the value of Lonzo Ball's contract. It does not avoid us paying the luxury tax either. So keep in mind, it doesn't even eliminate that tax bill. So those are some of the things. Now, could this be that sign that AK talked about as far as now going into the luxury tax? Because using this $10 million exception would send the Bulls into the luxury tax. There's no way around that, right? But when you look at the Bulls and how many more spots they have to fill on the roster, it makes sense. So we're going to talk about some of the candidates that the Bulls could use this on in free agency. And a lot of the candidates that we've already talked about, right? Kelly Oubre is definitely one that could fit in there, especially if he does strike out in free agency, doesn't get the money that he wants. You also could look at like a Grant Williams, a Mo Bamba, players that we've talked about very heavily and how they can fit on the team, right? Mo Bamba, we know what he can be as a power forward or center for this team. The ability to protect the rim, what the blocks he averages per minute is amazing, right? The ability to rebound, stretch the floor a little bit as well. Grant Williams brings in toughness, playoff experience, right? Not a perfect player by any stretch of the imagination. Isn't going to kill you with rebounds either, right? But can also be a threat to stretch the floor. But then you can also look at younger players, like a PJ Washington, right? Now, the Charlotte Hornets do have the ability to match any offer, but when you look at them bringing in Brandon Miller, now re-signing as well Miles Bridges to that team, could that leave PJ Washington as the man out if the Hornets just choose not to match a deal? Could be something like that as well. Trendon Watford is another one that some of you guys have brought up. He was recently waived by the Blazers last year, shooting almost 39% from three-point range as well, so he could be somebody that the Bulls could look at. Dario Saric is another one that you guys brought up, which I'm kind of here or there on Dario Saric, but I understand why his name came up. But those are all players that kind of come in at a position of need, right? Have the ability to do a couple of things for the Chicago Bulls, would maybe be willing to take that money that we have to offer as well, because they're probably not going to get offered much more out in free agency. Those are some of the players that we're looking at in free agency. Does it mean that the Bulls could go outside the box and look at some other people? Absolutely they could. But the key thing that I do want to talk about here and use this time for as well is what players could the Bulls look to use this exception on that are on a team that they could trade for, right? And they could absorb that contract into that exception. They still would have to give up asset, right? Whether it be a future draft pick, maybe it be whatever, right? They would have to give up something. But you can look at, for example, a Thad Young. In the last year of his deal, we already know familiarity with this team, the chemistry he has with Zach LaVine. He stepped a little back some, but again, somebody who has that familiarity, and we know what we're going to get out of Thad Young. Another one, Isaiah Hartenstein. Now, this is a guy that the New York Knicks just recently signed, but again, it seemed like maybe he fell out of favor there a little bit, right? They have another big there. They still have other bigs there that they've used in their rotation. So could be, maybe. Kyle Anderson is another one that they could look at. He's a player that fits a role, does some facilitating, doesn't really bring any of the shooting that we need, but another one that they could look at. Malik Monk, in the last year of that deal, could be another player that the Bulls also look at in that time, and maybe to bring some more three-point shooting to this team that they could look at. So he's one as well that I think that the Bulls could possibly look at, not necessarily saying that they will for sure. When you look at his contract, $9.9 million next season fits right into that disabled player exception that we have available. Next up, Danilo Gallinari, a player that we did try to sign that was recently traded as well, but he fits into that exception, brings some shooting, brings some rebounding. He's a veteran as well. You think he can pick up any system pretty easily and figure out a way to really fit in that as well. So those are some of the players that, again, this is not the full list. So I'm saying this is the only players that the Bulls should look at, but these are absolutely options for the Chicago Bulls to go after, whether it be in free agency or be on the trade market, to try to use that exception to bring talent to the team. Who are your favorite players, right? Let me know on that list, or somebody who's not on the list, right? Who are your favorite players that you think the Bulls could go after? Miles Bridges already off. I know I've seen some of you guys bring him up, already off the list. I still think personally, for me, it still comes down to Grant Williams or Mo Bamba for me. The more I look at Trendon Watford as well, I kind of like what he brings, especially youth, a super young player, barely scratching the surface. But again, could the Bulls be looking at something that's a little bit more of a guaranteed product that they kind of already know that's polished? Those are some things. Kelly Oubre, he's probably one of the better free agents out. It's crazy that he's not gotten a deal yet, but I do think that there's going to probably be a team that's left holding a bag of money that ends up throwing it to him, whether it be on one of those one-year deals with the player option in the second year, just to kind of use that money, maybe even get to that salary cap floor. So those are those kind of options. But I tell you what, there are definitely some that I would be interested in if Danilo Gallinari is going to be fully healthy as well. We already know AK's kind of been one of those GMs where if he sees you as this guy, he eventually tries to find a way to get you. So that could be another option as well. So, hey, let me know what you guys think on it all down below. We're going to continue to monitor it. Hopefully we hear sooner rather than later if this exception, which we pretty sure is going to be approved, but once it is approved for the Bulls, and then we'll take a look again. We may revise this list based off who's still available once the Bulls do get that disabled player exception approved. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know your targets down below. Make sure you're following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the show. The number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related because of you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.